the most elusive experience of the human being in this huge, endless universe. Now, I would amend that to say huge, endless multiverse, is related to the human consciousness, human awareness of what is surrounding him or her or it, perceiving surroundings, nature, with deep interceptions and incorporating all of this in the context of emotional experience based on memory and self-identity. The author defines consciousness, and that is the author Abdulrahman al-Abdulgaider. And he has many titles, as you can see here. Apparently he's senior scientist, congenital cardiologist, and invasive electrophysiologist. Prince Sultan Cardiac Center. Man, I'd like to be an invasive electrophysiologist. That sounds pretty dang exciting, a rewarding career. Invasive electrophysiologist. Yeah, hey, folks, yeah, I've decided I'm no longer going to be just a disabled veteran making random videos on YouTube. I found out what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to be an invasive electrophysiologist. Okay, enough tomfooling about. So I'm sharing this document and reading from it, presenting it to you, the dear, esteemed, noble, honorable, and notable viewer, in an effort to leverage NLP, neuro-linguistic programming technologies. Some people, they are able to integrate information through auditory methods, hearing, reading. So I'm providing, a couple methods, couple of vectors of information dissemination and assimilation. If you agree with this neuro-linguistic programming multiverse style, hit the subscribe button, leave this video a thumbs up. In Hawaii, of course, it's not a thumbs up, it's a shakyamuni, shaka. That's just in Hawaii, though. So, the author defines consciousness as a state of alertness and being aware, active, and vigilant of the self and surroundings with volition, based in memory and personal identity. The state is ineffable and intrinsic and expresses itself in presence of soul through activation. Now, expresses itself in presence of soul through activation of different sensing and perceptive body organs, but may pass through lighter densities and variable dimensions in quantum nature. If soul leaves the body, so I want to stop there and talk about this real quick. The fact that this author, this invasive electrophysiologist and congenital cardiologist, the fact that he has used the word soul, now I want to talk about that because beginning in, first of all, Christianity and Christ, Jesus the Christ, literally have nothing to do with one another except in name only. In the Council of Nicaea, this is where the Eastern and the Western churches split. This is where the mess that we find ourselves in this day of being prisoners collectively within the digital matrix, of being in danger of being absorbed into the artificial intelligence Borg hive mind, has its root in the Council of Nicaea and the Emperor Constantine and their decisions at this council in AD 325. 325 AD, 325 years after the death of Christ. That is when Christianity was created, and it was decided at that council that spirit was to be stricken from the teachings of Christianity. Allow that to sink in. If you don't understand what I'm saying, let me back up. Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, it was decided, first of all, this is where the religion Christianity was formed, a state created religion of control, of enslavement. This is how the enslavement began. In 325 AD, the council decided, first of all, got rid of all the anything like the Gospel of Thomas, which was the only, I guess, surviving literature of the Essenes, of which Jesus the Christ actually was. Okay? And the Gospel of Thomas still had the undiluted, unadulterated teachings of Christ. That was not, of course, that would not do, because it talked about spirit. It talked about the soul. Spirit as the connection to soul. So that all that was stricken out. It was said, if you talk about the reality of the spirit to your poor people that come to your churches, then you'll be excommunicated. And literally look that up. That was decided. It was only the physical matter and the mental body, and it was the same thing that Descartes did in Cartesian duality, completely eliminating any aspect of connection to the soul, spirit connecting to soul. The churches of the West did not teach that any longer as reality. So you were completely dependent upon an outside apparatus, the Christian Western Vatican Catholicism, that church. You had to rely on a priest or a clergyman or a bishop or somebody to be your intercessionary between you and ultimate gnosis, between you and consciousness with God, connection with Source. It was decided that all of that information and all that technology was to be not taught, to be not made available to the masses. But that didn't happen in the Eastern Church, the Orthodox Church. Russian Orthodox Church, by the way. Okay? They maintain the reality of the spirit, of the individual's ability to connect to God without having to rely upon any outside force, which was essentially how enslavement through organized religion took place. So it's very deep. It gets even deeper. There's much more that I could talk about with that whole topic involving the Venus transitions between in the years 1874 to 1882. This Venus, when the spirit had a revival through Madame Blavatsky, where, you know, it's so this if you look into the history of theosophy, Rudolf Steiner and all this, you'll see where, even though it was decided in the West at the Council of Nicaea with the creation of the Christian religion, even though it was decided to murder the spirit of man, of our ability to connect to God, to Source, through our own efforts, without having to rely on anybody outside of us to do it for us, that through that Venus transition, the spirit came back into this 3D mutant matrix, and the revival of the soul and all that began, and so we have this battle of the black magicians, initiates of black magic, and the initiates of the white magic. And the black magic initiates are the ones who are in cahoots with the artificial intelligence hive mind and all things technology, all things to enslave your consciousness. Those of the white magic school are Christ conscious warriors of light, Melchizedek lineage, graduates of the Essene monastery of the 7 rays of light. So the fact that this guy in this documentation, sorry, I got off on track. I'll have to come back and do another video where we talk about this guy's documentation. But I found that, I haven't read it. I was sharing this document with you as in real time. I didn't pre-read it or pre-peruse it, if you will. But here he is, he uses the word soul, and I find that amazing, whether or not this is some sort of actual, scientific paper that was submitted and accepted, but it's the same thing in academia, and you can see it in psychology with the disciplines of psychology. When modern psychology was birthed, that's why Carl Gustav Jung was always considered an outsider, and Freud was considered the accepted academic psychologists, because they got together and they said, look, if you talk about the reality of the soul or the spirit and trying to explain human consciousness, the only things that they allowed to exist was the body, the physical matter, the 3D, third dimension, and your mind, your mental. There was no outside, there was no spirit. Everything was five senses, imprisoned by the five senses, trapped within the five senses, and thus the digital matrix. Of course, the digital matrix was just being conceptualized at that time. I mean, before the first movie was ever made, the concept was alive in the minds of men, and the mental imagining and all that but until the technology, the science, the physical science actually caught up and was able to produce movies and images, electronic images. So all that, literally, it can be as simplified as this, defined exactly like this. And I'll come back and treat this. I'm sure this is going to be a very good document, but I got off on a tangent with the Council of Nicaea. But that is essentially the two schools, the black magic initiates versus the white magic initiates. And the black magic initiates, right at that Venus transition in the late 1800s, when the revival of the spirit came back into consciousness, at the same time, the technology for creating movies and radio transmissions and all that stuff came about. And that is the path of enslavement of technology. Now, I'm saying the complete acceptance and worship of technology, which is essentially what transhumanism is all about. Okay, so where was I? Oh yeah. So the mere mention of the word soul in this scientific document, there's a whole part of the reality of transhumanist agenda that worships technology, that doesn't believe in the soul or the spirit or any of that. Everything's technology, and everything it stops there. Nothing goes higher. They're trapped within their three lower chakras. Of course, they don't, recognize or understand the modalities of what a chakra is, but it's they trap you within the digital matrix. They want you to be trapped, seated in your metaverse with your virtual reality goggles on and your orgasmatron turned up to 23, and being a battery, a constant source of loosh, hooked into that for the rest of your life, never to ascend to the new earth and the golden age timeline. So hit that subscribe button, leave this video a shakya, as we do the brothers in Hawaii, brothers and sisters, sista in Hawaii, and stay tuned. I'll get back on track. Namaste. Namaskaram.